Welcome back. 4 years ago, established KC artist Suze Ford took on a new challenge, painting fabric that's turned into an accessory, a clutch. Today, we take a look at the hand dyeing and painting process. So when you're looking at these vibrantly colored, hand-painted purses, they were dyed before they were painted. So how does that process play out?
So this is actually what I'm doing right now. So I have a plethora of just very vibrant colors that I am attracted to. And I have a different color wheel of colors that complement each other and work well together. And so I simply paint the dyes on. So this is not much different than if you would do a tie-dyed project, you know, same type of dyes, but I just apply it in a different way, which is with brushes.
And I would say my tie-dye projects never end up looking like that. But you know, you're a classically trained oil painter, and you're using acid dye. So how does that paint a little bit differently?
These kind of act a little bit like watercolors, sort of. So they have a different reaction to the fabric as opposed to oils. Oils you layer and you do layers and layers, as opposed to right now what I'm doing is it's becoming a part of the fabric, so it's actually just like seeping into the fabric. No matter what I'm painting, my art comes from the same place, the same love of color, the same heart and everything. So everything I create sort of complements each other. You can tell I'm the one that makes it because it all, you know, it all comes from the same place.
Yeah, okay, so when you've got a fairly blank canvas just like this, what draws your inspiration?
It's about enjoying the process. It's about the, I don't know, people always say like things creatively are almost like therapy. You know, not everything we do in life is about the end game, about the product we end up with, although I do love the end product. It's about the process. It's about the movement of my arm when I'm painting. It's very gestural. It comes from a part of my body and the way my arm just naturally moves. A lot of abstract art, in my opinion, is so much about the actual process of mixing and picking the colors and just the way the brush reacts to the surface and the paints and that sort of thing. So it's all about just the enjoyment of doing it.
And after Suze is done dyeing the fabric, it has to be steamed. However, the fabric can't get wet or the dye would run. So in the next half an hour, we're gonna see how she hand paints those silks. Welcome back. Earlier we met local artist Suze Ford, and now it's time to see her paint the silk. While she doesn't have a design in mind, she says that she knows what colors work together and she paints what she feels. So Suze, when we look at the finished product, you can actually see elements that you've painted on. So how do you go about that process?
So basically after the dye is put on and it's steamed into the fabric, so it's a permanent part of the fabric. The paint is the next level that I love to add on at the end because it gives a lot of depth and dimension to the pieces. So it doesn't seem so flat to me, and also it adds a really cool element because a lot of my paints have like shimmer and sparkle in them, so it really kind of just adds an extra flair that I just love that you can't get with the dye. And the dyes are just so vibrant that the paint just gives an extra really cool look to it.
My biggest question is, how do you know what colors to put where so they really stand out?
I like putting complementary colors next to each other. So if you know anything about the color wheel, just colors that are basically opposite from each other on the color wheel, because that really makes it pop. So a green next to a pink, where I'm doing teal next to a pink, it just complements each other really well. I also love doing like different shades of a color. So here you see I have like a dark purple, and I like having like a lighter, more dull purple next to it. Honestly, I've been painting so long, I just don't even think about it. It just like what comes out.
Okay, I hear you there.
Yeah.
Now, let's also talk about what inspired you to take your artwork into the fashion space.
Always had a huge love for fashion, specifically shoes. I've always loved shoes.
Oh, I'm sure you still love fashion. Yeah, we're looking at art.
I do, yeah. But I just don't have the lifestyle that I wear quite the fun stuff anymore. But I studied fashion design in college in Florence, Italy, and I was so inspired by just their love and vibrance, and it's just so eccentric over there. You know, it's just really fun, and people express themselves through what they wear. I just have always had deep in me that one day I was gonna figure out how to get my art and fashion to come together.
Well, I think you've done that beautifully. Well, and that is 100% silk that Suze was painting on. She makes several clutches from each piece of fabric, and each one is unique. In just a little bit, Suze is going to chat about what it's like to be an artist here in Kansas City and explains how her contemporary art is created. So oil painting is where Suze Ford started in the art world. She's been a featured artist for the Plaza Art Fair and a juror at the Westport Art Fair.
So basically her paintings have received big recognition here in Kansas City,
Yeah,
right?
and she paints a picture where she draws her inspiration.
Okay.
Suze, when you told me that we were going to be watching you do an oil painting, I didn't know we were going to be on this giant canvas.
Yeah, I mean, big canvas is my happy place. It's definitely where you can just kind of let the paint go and let your arm work and the brushes work, and it's the most fun for me.
You're classically trained in this, so why do you love it so much?
It is my first love, so you know, what you learn to create on is kind of like, it just has a special place in your heart. And I love the buttery paints. You know, right now I'm working thinner, and I love how it runs in the canvas. But I also like when we start getting thicker and the paint is almost, it's like painting with icing sometimes.
This is abstract fine art. What does that mean?
So to me, fine art, it's work that you develop over time. To me, it's where you find your voice in what you're creating. It takes a long time, I think, to really develop a style and what you're trying to say. And for me, I know the gifts I've been given for a reason, and it's the fine art piece in me is just expressing that voice.
And Kansas City has really taken to that because you've also had your work hanging up in the Country Club Plaza, which I imagine is just gonna take your breath away when you walk down.
When I was asked to be the featured artist at the Plaza Art Fair a few years ago, and you know, growing up in Kansas City, I mean, the Plaza Art Fair is such a staple in our community. I think it's an amazing tradition that that all Kansas City people can have like a memory and they can relate to. And so,
I hear ya.
Yeah, so it's such an honor. Like, I definitely don't take those opportunities for granted.
At the Plaza Art Fair, you were also a judge and showing at the same time. So what is that experience like?
I mean, it's a lot of pressure, really, because I know as an artist how hard artists work to apply and get into a show like that, and how important it is for them to have opportunities to show their work and meet clientele and meet new people. And you really just want to put the best of the best in the show, and you take that seriously.
So Sue says that she usually takes 8 weeks to make a commissioned piece of art, and that the base layers, get ready for this, the base layers can take up to a year to dry.
What? That's crazy. Like,
Yeah.
so all the paint underneath, a year to dry?
Yeah, because she paints in so many layers.
Interesting.
But here is where that painting is today. Sue says that it is nowhere near done, but you can also see how much farther that it's come since the day we were shooting together.
So it's still not done. I wonder what else she's. I mean, obviously she still has
probably
some
got big
negative
plans.
space in there that she can fill in, or you know, does she? Like you said, she does many layers. So is she going to put more on the blue, more on the yellow, or the pinks?
Bill, I don't know about that, but I do have to say you low-key just threw in negative space,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty impressed with that.
That's